I stood in my pajamas, hands behind my head, watching FBI agents haul my children's tablets and my grandfather's original will into black evidence bags, all because of an anonymous tip that I was dangerous. A tip I knew came from the woman currently trying to steal my inheritance, my own sister. My sister didn't just want my grandfather's money, she wanted to see me in a cage. She thought calling in a federal raid would keep me from the courthouse long enough for her to seize the estate. But she forgot one thing: she left a digital footprint, and I was about to turn her anonymous tip into her prison sentence. Welcome to Hidden Secrets, where family betrayals never stay buried. If you love stories where the truth is weaponized for justice, consider subscribing. Stay tuned, because this betrayal goes deeper than a simple lie. My name is Naomi Hart, and until last month, I lived a quiet, predictable life in a leafy suburb of Columbus, Ohio. I'm a librarian, hardly the profile of a federal fugitive. But when my grandfather, a man who built a real estate empire from nothing, passed away, the peace in my family died with him. The betrayal didn't start with a scream. It started with a thunderous, rhythmic pounding on my front door at 4:41 a.m. I lunged out of bed, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Through the side light of my front door, I didn't see a burglar. I saw tactical vests, flashlights, and the yellow block letters. FBI, Naomi Hart, we have a search warrant, open the door now. I opened it, trembling, only to be met by Agent Mercer and 4 other agents pushing past me. My 2 children, Lily and Tyler, were already crying at the top of the stairs. Get the kids, Mercer barked to another agent. Secure them in the bathroom. Wait, they're just kids, I screamed, but I was ignored. They were executing a warrant based on an affidavit that claimed I was an erratic, armed threat who intended to use violence to disrupt the probate hearing for my grandfather's multi-million-dollar estate, a hearing that was scheduled for 8:15 a.m. that very morning. As I sat on my sofa under guard, watching them seize my laptop and phone, I realized the timing was too perfect. This wasn't a mistake. It was a tactical strike. My sister, Serena Caldwell, had been fighting me for months over the estate's contest clause, a provision our grandfather added to penalize any heir who used fraud or intimidation to win. Serena was the golden child who had blown through her trust fund years ago. She needed this inheritance to survive her mounting debts. I was the only thing standing in her way. By 4:57 a.m., I managed to get to my landline to call my probate attorney, Dana Wickham. Dana, the FBI is in my living room, I whispered, my voice cracking. They have a warrant, they're taking everything, they say I'm a threat. Don't say a word, Naomi, Dana's voice was sharp, professional. Show them the warrant, but do not answer questions. I'm calling the AUSA right now. This smells like a setup. As I hung up, I caught a glimpse of an agent, Agent Daniel Clean, looking at a stack of my mail. He looked hesitant. He was holding my legal correspondence with the probate court. That's privileged, I said, regaining some of my strength. You can't take that. Clean looked at Agent Mercer, who shrugged. The warrant says all documents related to the Hart estate. We take it all. At that moment, the cliffhanger hit. As they bagged my electronics, a notification popped up on my wall-mounted smart home screen, an administrative email from the probate court clerk. Serena Caldwell had requested the 8:15 a.m. hearing be moved up to 7:30 a.m. due to urgent security concerns regarding the safety of the heirs. She wasn't just trying to frame me. She was trying to finish the hearing before I could even get out of my driveway. The psychological toll of watching a federal agent carry my daughter's pink Hello Kitty tablet into a black evidence bag is something I can't describe. It felt like my life was being dismantled piece by piece, not because of anything I had done, but because my sister, Serena, knew exactly which buttons to press in the post-9/11 American security apparatus. By 5:30 a.m., the house was quiet, but the air was heavy with the scent of ozone and the sterile smell of the agent's tactical gear. Agent Mercer stood in my kitchen, reviewing the return of service on his tablet. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of doubt in his expression. Ms. Hart, he said, his voice lower now, the tip we received was extremely specific. It alleged you had a cache of unlicensed firearms and a manifesto regarding the cleansing of the probate court. We didn't find any weapons. Because I don't have any, I snapped, my voice trembling with a mixture of exhaustion and fury. I'm a librarian. I collect overdue books, not Glocks. My sister is the one who wants to cleanse the court of me? I felt trapped. In the U.S. legal system, an anonymous tip to a federal agency is a powerful, terrifying weapon. It triggers a sworn affidavit from an agent, which a judge signs off on. Once that train leaves the station, it's nearly impossible to stop. Serena had used the FBI as her personal hit squad to ensure I was detained, rattled, and most importantly, absent from the hearing. The stakes increased at 6:00 a.m. Dana Wickham, my attorney, arrived at my front door. She didn't just walk in, she stormed in with a folder of case law and a look on her face that could have melted steel. "Agent Mercer," Dana said, ignoring the caution tape. "I've already contacted the assistant U.S. attorney. My client is not under arrest. You have executed your search. Now, I want a copy of the affidavit that justified this intrusion, and I want it now." While Dana handled the agents, I slipped into the guest bathroom to splash cold water on my face. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. I was pale, my hair was a mess, and my home was a crime scene. But beneath the fear, a cold, hard knot was forming in my stomach. I realized that if I didn't get to that courthouse by 7:30 a.m., Serena would win by default. She would argue that my absence and alleged federal investigation made me an unfit administrator of the estate. She would trigger the in terrorem or contest clause against me, arguing that my criminal behavior was an affront to our grandfather's legacy. "Dana," I said, walking back into the living room. "We have 90 minutes. Serena moved the hearing up. She's at the King Avenue courthouse right now, telling a judge I'm a terrorist." "I know," Dana said, her eyes narrowing. But she made one huge mistake. She called the tip line from a burner phone, but she sent that administrative email to the court from her own IP address at her condo. She's trying to sync the two events. The psychological struggle shifted from victim to strategist. I looked at Agent Clean, the younger agent who had looked uncomfortable earlier. "Agent Clean," I said, "you're looking for evidence of a threat. Did you find any? Or did you find a woman who was up at 2:00 a.m. drafting a victim impact statement for a probate judge?" Clean looked at Mercer, then back at me. "The search is concluded," he said to Mercer. "We have the electronics for forensic imaging, but the house is clear." "We're leaving," Mercer said, "but Ms. Hart, I wouldn't leave the county if I were you." "I'm not leaving the county," I replied, grabbing my blazer from the coat rack. "I'm going to court." The moment I decided enough was when I saw Lily peering through the bathroom door, her eyes red from crying. She shouldn't have to see her mother treated like a criminal because of her aunt's greed. We had 1 hour. Dana and I scrambled. While she drove, I used her backup laptop to log into my grandfather's private cloud storage, a password he had given only to me. I wasn't looking for money. I was looking for the letter of intent. My grandfather was a paranoid man, but he was also brilliant. He knew Serena's character. He knew her history of swatting ex-boyfriends and filing false police reports to get her way. "Dana, look at this," I said, pointing to a scanned document from 2022. It was a formal letter to his attorneys detailing a previous incident where Serena had threatened to burn the house down if he didn't increase her allowance. "This is it," Dana whispered, accelerating through a yellow light. "This proves a pattern of behavior. If we can link the FBI tip to her, the contest clause doesn't just protect the estate, it annihilates her inheritance." The suspense reached a fever pitch as we pulled into the courthouse parking lot at 7:25 a.m. The building was crawling with extra security. 2 SUVs with tinted windows were parked at the curb, U.S. Marshals. Serena had really sold the threat narrative. As we walked toward the heavy oak doors of courtroom 4B, I saw Serena's attorney, a shark named Thorne, whispering to the bailiff. Serena was sitting in the front row, wearing a black veil as if she were the grieving widow instead of the predatory sister. She looked radiant, composed, and victorious. She looked toward the door and her jaw dropped. The veil slipped. She didn't expect me to be there. She expected me to be in an interrogation room at the federal building. "Your Honor," Dana's voice boomed as we entered the room. "We apologize for the delay. My client was delayed by a federal search warrant executed on the basis of a fraudulent tip." The judge, a man with white hair and eyes like flint, looked up from his bench. "A federal search warrant, Ms. Wickham? That is a very serious allegation." "It is, Your Honor," Dana replied, slamming her briefcase onto the table. "And we are prepared to show that this court and the FBI have been used as tools for a coordinated criminal conspiracy." I looked at Serena. She was frantically texting under the table. Her arrogance was being replaced by a visible, twitching panic. She thought she had buried me at 4:41 a.m. She didn't realize I had spent the last 3 hours digging my way out. "Enough with the theatrics," the judge said. "Let's begin." The stakes were now $12 million, my freedom, and the safety of my children. And the only thing between me and a jail cell was a digital trail that ended at Serena's front door. The atmosphere in courtroom 4B was suffocating. In the United States, a probate court is usually a place of dry paperwork and hushed tones, but today, it felt like a pressurized chamber. The U.S. Marshals stood by the doors, their presence a constant reminder of the threat Serena had manufactured. Judge Holloway looked at me with a mixture of skepticism and concern. Ms. Hart, the court was informed that you were the subject of a federal investigation involving potential violence. This hearing was moved up for the safety of all parties. Are you telling me that a search warrant signed by a federal judge was based on a lie? Yes, Your Honor, I said, my voice steadying, and I have the evidence to show exactly who told it. Step 1 of the silent plan began right there. Dana Wickham didn't just present a defense, she launched a forensic counter-offensive. While the FBI still had my physical devices, they hadn't yet realized that I had a mirrored cloud backup of my home's network traffic. Your Honor, Dana began, we have subpoenaed the administrative logs from the court's own filing system. The email requesting this hearing be moved up was sent at 5:06 a.m., just 25 minutes after the FBI breached my client's door. The metadata shows it was sent from a device registered to Serena Caldwell. Serena's attorney, Thorne, stood up. Objection, my client was simply reacting to news of the raid. She was scared. How did she know about the raid at 5:06 a.m., Mr. Thorne? Dana countered, her eyes flashing. The neighbors hadn't even woken up yet. The only people who knew were the FBI and the person who called them. Step 2 was the chain of reporting. Dana handed a document to the bailiff to pass to the judge. This is a log of the anonymous tip provided to the FBI's tip line at 2:00 a.m. While the caller used a VoIP burner app to mask their voice, they made a fatal error. To use the app, they had to bypass the court's public Wi-Fi firewall earlier that evening when Serena was here for the preliminary filing. The MAC address of the phone used for the tip matches the phone currently sitting in Serena Caldwell's designer handbag. I watched Serena. The fake grief was gone. She was clutching her pearls so hard the string looked like it might snap. This was the beauty of the U.S. legal system. It's built on a paper trail. You can lie to a person, but you can't lie to a server log. Step 3 was the grandfather's fail-safe. I stood up and pulled a single, laminated sheet of paper from my briefcase. Your Honor, before we discuss the distribution of assets, I would like the court to recognize the contest clause, specifically Section 4.2 of the Hart Family Trust. The judge leaned forward. Proceed. Section 4.2 states that any beneficiary who attempts to influence the probate process through fraud, coercion, or the subversion of law enforcement shall be deemed to have predeceased the testator. They are effectively disinherited. I looked directly at Serena. My grandfather knew you, Serena. He knew about the time you filed a false police report against your ex-fiancé to get the ring back. He knew your pattern. He didn't just leave me a house, he left me a shield. The tension was building like a storm. Dana then produced the final piece of the puzzle, a recording from my home's smart doorbell. It wasn't from the raid. It was from 2 days ago. It showed Serena standing on my porch, thinking I wasn't home. She wasn't there to visit. She was talking into her phone, practicing. Yeah, she has a basement full of rifles. The recording played through the courtroom speakers. She's been talking about how the judge won't live to see the ruling. You need to get there before the hearing. The courtroom went dead silent. The FBI lead agent, Mercer, who had stayed to monitor the hearing, stood up in the back of the room. He wasn't looking at me anymore. He was looking at Serena with the cold, focused intensity of a man who realized he had been used to terrorize an innocent family. Mr. Thorne, the judge said, his voice like ice, do you wish to cross-examine this evidence? Thorne looked at his client, then at the recording, then back at the judge. My client wishes to invoke her Fifth Amendment rights at this time. I thought so, the judge said. He turned to Agent Mercer. Agent, it appears your dangerous suspect is actually the victim of a coordinated federal swatting attempt. I suggest you take a very close look at the devices currently in Ms. Caldwell's possession. But we weren't done. The plan wasn't just to prove her guilt. It was to ensure she never had the chance to hurt my children again. Your Honor, Dana added, we are requesting an immediate emergency restraining order and a freeze on all of Serena Caldwell's existing accounts. She has used federal resources to harass my client. She is a flight risk and a danger to the integrity of this estate. The judge didn't even hesitate. Motion granted. Serena Caldwell, you are hereby barred from any involvement in the Hart estate pending a criminal investigation into perjury and filing a false police report. Bailiffs, please escort Ms. Caldwell to the hallway to meet with Agent Mercer. As the bailiffs moved toward her, Serena's composure finally shattered. You think you won, Naomi? You think you're so perfect with your books and your quiet life? That money belonged to me. I'm the one who stayed. I'm the one who deserved it. You stayed to bleed him dry, Serena, I said, my voice barely a whisper but echoing in the silence. I stayed to keep him company. The execution was seconds away. The marshals who had been there to protect the court from me were now blocking the exits for her. The silent plan had worked. Every legal trap was set, every document was filed, and the truth was finally documented in a way that no lie could ever erase. But as Serena was let out in tears, Agent Clean walked over to me. He still had my phone in a plastic bag. Ms. Hart, he said, handing it back. I'm sorry. We follow the warrants we're given, but sometimes we're given garbage. I'll make sure the incident report reflects the truth. Thank you, Agent, I said. But as I looked at the screen of my phone, I saw a text from an unknown number that had come in just as the hearing started. You think the FBI was the only trap? Look at the trust paperwork again, Naomi. Grandfather had a secret he never told you. My heart plummeted. The raid was over, the hearing was won, but the real mystery was just beginning. The unknown text message felt like a cold needle in my spine. I stood in the middle of the courtroom, the echoes of Serena's screaming still vibrating in the air, but the victory felt suddenly hollow. My grandfather, Silas Hart, was a man of immense wealth, but he was also a man of immense secrets. I looked at Dana. We need to go to the vault. Now. Part 4 of my story isn't just about Serena's arrest, it's about the final revelation that changed the Hart legacy forever. In the United States, a living trust is designed to keep your business private. But once a judge orders court supervision due to fraud, every skeleton in the closet gets a subpoena. The hidden ledger we drove straight to the private vault at the First National Bank in downtown Columbus. Because the judge had granted me full administrative control, I finally had access to the Hart box, a safe deposit box my grandfather had kept for 40 years. When the bank officer slid the heavy steel drawer onto the table, my hands were shaking. Inside wasn't more money. It was a single, leather-bound ledger and a secondary will, signed just 3 days before his death. The secret my grandfather kept? Serena wasn't the only one he was protecting me from. He was protecting me from himself. The ledger revealed that the Hart estate wasn't built just on real estate. It was built on a massive, decades-old settlement from a pharmaceutical company that had covered up a chemical leak in the town where he grew up. He had spent his life laundering that guilt into property. But the secondary will had a specific, final instruction. If Serena ever tried to use the law to harm me, her portion of the inheritance wouldn't just be voided. It would be donated to the very victims of that chemical leak. He knew Serena's greed would be her undoing. He had set a trap that required her to be a villain for me to become the hero. The downfall of Serena Caldwell, while I was uncovering the truth, Serena was being processed at the federal building. The FBI doesn't like being lied to. Agent Mercer and the AUSA didn't just charge her with filing a false report. They hit her with wire fraud for the electronic tip and obstruction of justice. Because she had used a federal agency to attempt to influence a multi-million-dollar probate case, her charges were upgraded to felonies. In the U.S. federal system, there is no parole. Serena was looking at a minimum of 5 to 7 years in a federal penitentiary. The public humiliation was total. By the time I left the bank, the news was everywhere. Socialite arrested in swatting, plot against sister over $12 million estate. Her friends in the high society circles of Columbus vanished overnight. Her luxury condo was seized to pay for her mounting legal fees, and the very shark attorney she had hired, Thorne, dropped her the moment her accounts were frozen. She went from silk veils to an orange jumpsuit in less than 12 hours. The final hearing 2 weeks later, we returned to court for the final signature. The room was empty this time, no marshals, no paparazzi, just Judge Holloway and the truth. Ms. Hart, the judge said, looking at the final trust paperwork, your grandfather was a complicated man, but it seems he knew his granddaughters better than anyone. You have managed this crisis with a level of grace that proves his trust in you was well placed. I signed the final documents. Under court supervision, the estate was stabilized. The money was safe, and the donation to the settlement victims was processed. I wasn't just a librarian anymore. I was the steward of a legacy that had finally been cleansed of its secrets. An empowered future today, my home is quiet again. The FBI returned my electronics, and while my children still jump a little when there's a loud knock at the door, we are healing. Lily and Tyler have a college fund that can never be touched, and I have the peace of knowing that my sister can never use my own government against me again. Serena is currently serving her sentence at a federal facility in West Virginia. She still sends letters blaming me for her bad luck, but I don't open them. I have the records. I have the documentation. And in the eyes of the law, she doesn't exist to the Hart family anymore. I learned that the strongest weapon isn't a badge or a gun, it's a paper trail. I am Naomi Hart, and I'm no longer afraid of the dark. Because I know that when the lights come on, the truth is the only thing left standing. Subscribe for more true stories like this, where family betrayals never stay buried and justice always finds a way.